The silence between two-line studio lights were bright. Too bright. They cast a warm glow across the set, but nothing about the moment felt warm. It was the middle of a beautiful scene, the kind that usually made people smile just watching. It happened. The crew was quiet, the director's voice steady and calm. Everything looked perfect. But Keanu Reeves had stopped smiling. The cameras were rolling. The sound of the clapperboard echoed softly in the air. Ana de Armas stood just inches away from him, her eyes locked on his. They were in the middle of a romantic exchange, lines they'd practiced together for weeks. But right when Keanu was supposed to deliver the final line of the scene, his smile faded. Something in Ana's expression had changed. Not her performance, not her body language, something deeper. And then she whispered no one else heard it. It was too soft, like the sound of a secret only meant for him. Keanu blinked. His lips parted like he was going to say something, but no words came out. The director waited. The crew didn't move. Even Ana didn't look away. The silence between them stretched longer than it should have, long enough for everyone on set to feel that something real had just happened. Cut, the director finally said. Uncertain, Keanu stepped back. Not quickly, not dramatically. Just a slow step. Like someone walking away from a dream that had suddenly turned into something he didn't understand. Ana lowered her gaze. She didn't follow him. He walked off the set without a word. No one dared to stop him. Back in his trailer, Keanu sat down on the small couch, his hands resting on his knees. The whisper echoed in his mind. It was just 5 words. 5 quiet words. But they carried more weight than anything he'd heard in years. He didn't cry, not yet, but he felt it. Deep, like a pressure rising from a place inside him he had locked away outside. The crew pretended everything was fine. But at one, Ana stayed on set, her eyes looking somewhere far away. When the assistant came to check if she needed anything, she simply said, "I need a moment." That moment stretched into hours. By the time evening fell, the director called. For a break, not just for the day, maybe longer. No one was sure. They only knew that something had broken. Something between Keanu and Ana that used to feel strong, almost unshakable. The thing was, they were not just acting. They had spent months filming this story together. Between scenes, there were conversations that mattered. Moments of shared silence that made them closer. Laughter that wasn't part of any script. But now, there was a crack. It had started with a whisper. Keanu opened his phone. He scrolled through old photos. One of them was a picture of him and Ana laughing on the beach during one of the early shoot days. They were in regular clothes, eating ice cream, and her hair was messy from the wind. It was one of his favorites. He looked at it for a long time, and then he did something he hadn't done in years. He called someone he hadn't spoken to in almost a decade. His older sister picked up. "Hey," Keanu said quietly. There was a pause. And then, "Keanu, are you okay?" He didn't answer at first. Then he said, "Someone said something to me today. And I don't know why it hit me like this." "What did they say?" He hesitated. Then quietly, he whispered the same 5 words Ana had said to him. And when he said them out loud, his voice cracked. His sister listened. Then she said, "You never told anyone what really happened, did you?" Keanu leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "No," he whispered, "because I didn't think I had the right to." His sister was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Maybe it's time to let someone in." Back on set, Ana was standing alone. The crew had cleared out. She pulled out a small notebook from her bag and stared at a page she had written weeks ago. It was a letter. To Keanu, she had never given it to him. Until now, she had never dared. But now, she had whispered those 5 words, and she could see what they had done. And part of her was afraid. But another part was hoping this was the beginning of something more honest, something that could heal. She folded the letter slowly, carefully, and placed it into her jacket pocket. She would give it to him. Not tonight, but soon. Because sometimes, the words we whisper break walls we didn't even know we were hiding behind. and sometimes breaking is the only way to start again. When the lights go down, love's taste, premiere night arrived faster than anyone expected. For weeks, there had been silence from the studio. No more threats. No more pressure to change anything. Perhaps the rawness of the final cut had said what words couldn't. The story they had poured themselves into the scenes carved out of pain. Silence and honesty was ready for the world. As the sun dipped below the city skyline, limos pulled up one by one outside the Grand Theater. Flashes from cameras lit the red carpet like fireworks. Reporters lined up in rows, their voices loud, their questions louder. Ana stood near the entrance, her hands cold despite the warm air. Her dress shimmered under the lights, but she barely noticed. She was searching for someone, and then, through the chaos, she saw him. Keanu.com/grounded, walking with a quiet presence that made the noise around him fade. He saw her, to dot, and the world for just a moment grew still. He walked too. Her without hesitation. No distance left between them, no secrets. Just the understanding that everything they had been through, every pause, every whisper, every hard moment, had led them here. He leaned in just enough for her to hear him. Whatever happens tonight. He said we stay real. Agreed, Ana smiled. Agreed. Together they stepped onto the carpet. Flashes exploded. Questions flew. Are you two a couple? Was your chemistry all for the camera? Keanu? Is it true she wrote you a letter? They didn't answer. Not with words. They walked forward, hand in hand, steady, quiet, honest, and the world watched. Inside the theater, as the film played, the audience fell into silence, scene by scene. They watched the story unfold. But somewhere in the middle, during that final scene where the two lovers stood beneath the stars, saying nothing and everything with their eyes, the room shifted. People cried. Some held their breath, because what was on screen didn't feel scripted. It felt true when the credits rolled. No one clapped at first. They just sat, absorbing what they had witnessed. Then slowly, the applause began, soft, rising, until the whole room stood a standing ovation. Keanu and Ana looked at each other, no smiles. Just tears in their eyes, not for the applause, for what they had survived together. Outside, under the soft glow of street lamps, Ana removed her heels and stepped barefoot onto the sidewalk. Keanu laughed quietly. You always do that after big nights. Only when they matter, she said. He walked beside her, his jacket draped over one arm. Do you think they saw it? She asked after a moment. The real us? I think they saw what we chose to give them, he said gently. Maybe that's enough. Ana stopped walking. I don't want to pretend anymore. Not about anything. Keanu turned to her. Then don't. Even if it scares me. He took her hand. Especially then. Ana stepped closer. I was afraid that whisper would break you. It did, he said. But in a way that made space for something better. A breeze moved. Between them, soft, cool. So, she asked, voice almost playful now, what happens next? Keanu smiled for real. We keep showing up, not just on screen, but here, with each other. Ana nodded. No scripts. Ana scripts. They stood in the middle of a quiet street, to people who had once been afraid of their own reflections. Now finally able to see each other clearly, Keanu reached into his jacket pocket. He still carried the letter. And now? He added something else beside it, her photo, the one she had given him in the garden. He looked at her and said, this is the part they don't see. When the cameras stop rolling, when the lights go down, Ana smiled softly. But it's the part that matters the most. And together, they walked forward. Not as actors, not as characters. Just two hearts learning how to be brave again. Weeks later, the world had moved on to newer headlines. Newer stars. Newer dramas. But the story they told remained. And long after the noise faded, the quiet love between Keanu and Ana endured, through shared mornings and unspoken nights, through handwritten notes left on kitchen counters, through silence. That no longer felt lonely because in the end, the whisper that once broke him had also been the whisper that saved them both. The letter in her jacket next morning. The sky above Los Angeles was dull and overcast. Rain hovered in the clouds but never quite fell. The world felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Keanu Reeves sat at the edge of his bed, still in yesterday's clothes. His trailer was quiet, untouched. A cold mug of coffee sat on the counter, forgotten. The whisper from Ana replayed in his mind again and again. Each time it cut a little deeper. "You remind me of him." Just 5 words. He knew who she meant it. Wasn't hard to figure out. Ana had only ever spoken about her father once, during a late-night drive back from location. She'd been quiet that night, staring out the window as the city lights passed. Then, without warning, she told him how her father used to sit by the piano every Sunday and play for hours. How he used to hum lullabies, even when she was too old for them. How one day he simply stopped smiling. That was all she had said. And now on set, she had whispered, "You remind me of him." It's those words, spoken in the middle of a performance, pierced right through Keanu. He stood up slowly, rubbed his tired eyes, and reached for the photo again. The same beach photo of him and Ana laughing. It felt like a lifetime ago. On her side, Ana de Armas walked into the studio earlier than anyone expected. She didn't go to the dressing room or the makeup trailer. Instead, she sat on the same bench where they used to rehearse lines. Together, she held the folded letter in her hand, creased and worn from being in her jacket pocket all night. She didn't know what to do with it. Should she give it to him? Should she tear it apart and forget it ever existed? The words she had written weeks ago now felt like a doorway, but she didn't know where it led. The letter said things she hadn't said out loud. How sometimes Keanu's silence comforted her more than any hug. How his calm voice helped when her anxiety screamed. How she had begun to trust him with things she hadn't even trusted herself with, and how she was scared. Scared that if she told him all that, she would lose the one place she had finally started to feel safe. But after yesterday, she knew silence would no longer protect her. Just then, a soft voice broke her thoughts. Ana. The director was standing there, unsure if he should be there at all. "We've pushed the shoot," he said gently. "We're giving you both space. But if you ever want to talk, or I'm here." Ana smiled softly and nodded. "Thank you," she said. After he left, she stayed seated. She pulled out the letter and unfolded it. Her hands trembled slightly. And then she stood up and walked toward Keanu's trailer. Her steps were slow, unsure, but she kept moving. When she reached the door, she didn't knock. She hesitated. Inside, Keanu was on the floor, leaning against the wall. He had just finished a call with his sister again. She had told him something that had stuck. "Maybe Ana isn't trying to hurt you," she'd said. "Maybe she's trying to reach a part of you that you've forgotten how to feel." Those words swirled in his head when he heard the soft knock. He didn't get up right away, but after a moment, he did. He opened the door slowly. Ana stood there, the folded letter in her hand. Her eyes were tired, like she hadn't slept either. "Can I come in?" Kay asked softly. Keanu stepped aside without a word. They sat down across from each other. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Ana took a breath. "I wasn't trying to hurt you yesterday," she began. "I said something that felt necessary. But maybe I said it in the wrong moment." Why Keanu's voice was quiet. Wasn't the wrong moment. Maybe it was the only moment where it could break through. Ana looked down at the letter. "I wrote this weeks ago. I didn't know if I should give it to you. I still don't. But after what happened yesterday, maybe you should read it." She reached out and placed the letter on the table between them. Keanu didn't touch it. Not yet. "Can I ask something first?" he said. Ana nodded. Double quotes, "Your father. What happened to him?" Ana exhaled slowly. He stopped talking. Stopped smiling. It wasn't sudden. It was like a slow fade. He was still there, but something inside him had shut down. We never knew why. He didn't let us in. One day he just left, emotionally. And eventually, physically too. Her voice cracked. "When you stopped smiling yesterday, I saw the same thing in your eyes." Keanu leaned back slightly, his eyes full of pain. "I've spent years making sure people only see one version of me. Strong one. The quiet one. The one who's always okay. He paused. But the truth is, sometimes I'm not okay. Sometimes I'm carrying things that never got spoken. And yesterday, when you whispered those words, it reminded me of someone I never talk about. Ana leaned in a little, her voice softer now. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. Silence filled the room again. But this time it didn't feel heavy. It felt like space being made for something new. Keanu finally picked up the letter. Can I read it later? He asked Ana. Nodded, of course. Held the folded paper gently, like it was something fragile. And in that quiet, something shifted. Not everything was healed. Not yet, but something had begun. Something that couldn't be undone. The space between broken things set was nearly midnight when Keanu finally opened the letter. The trailer was still. The only sound was the soft hum of the city outside. He had placed the letter on the table hours ago, untouched. He'd looked at it so many times like it was a doorway he wasn't sure he was ready to walk through. But something inside him had changed. Not quickly, not like a sudden crash. It was more like the quiet shift of earth before a flower blooms. Slow, silent, but powerful. He unfolded the paper carefully. Ana's handwriting was neat, almost too neat. Could tell she had written slowly, with intention. Like every word had been measured before it was set down. Then he began to read. Sometimes you walk into a room and everything feels calmer. I don't think you even know you do that. I used to think people only gave what they wanted to get back. But you give without asking. Even when you're tired. Even when it costs you something. I've watched you talk to strangers like they matter. I've watched you listen without interrupting. I've seen you sit with pain and never turn away from it. That's rare. I don't know when I started depending on your silence. It's strange to miss someone who hasn't even left, but there are days I miss you and you're sitting right next to me. I guess that's what this letter is. A way to tell you that you make this world feel safer, and also that I'm scared, because I think I've started to care about you in a way that might hurt. But if that's the price for knowing someone like you, then I'm willing. Keanu stared at the last sentence for a long time. His fingers trembled slightly. He hadn't expected this kind of honesty. Not from her, not like this. He folded the letter again, gently, and held it in both hands. Then, without thinking too hard, he slipped it into the inside pocket of his jacket, close to his chest. Ana couldn't sleep that night either. She sat on her balcony with a cup of cold tea and a thin blanket around her shoulders. The city lights flickered below her like quiet stars. She wondered if he'd read it. Wondered if she'd said too much or not enough. She wasn't sure what she wanted from him. Not exactly. She didn't expect a grand gesture. She didn't need a perfect moment. All she really wanted was to not lose the connection they'd built over time, scene by scene, moment by moment. She remembered one night in the desert, months ago during a night shoot. They had been filming a quiet dialogue. Under the stars and in between takes, Keanu had looked up at the sky and said, "You know, silence is a kind of language too. Sometimes it speaks louder than words." At the time, she thought he was just being poetic. But now, she knew he had been talking about himself, about the spaces he hid in, the places inside him that words couldn't reach. She looked down at her phone, no messages. But she wasn't surprised. Keanu didn't speak until he had something worth saying. And part of her admired that. The next day on set was quiet. Keanu showed up exactly on time. Not early, not late, but with purpose. He walked in wearing the same jacket. The letter still tucked inside. Ana was already there, sitting in a corner, reading the revised script. Her heart jumped when she saw him, but she didn't stand, didn't speak, just waited. Keanu walked over, knelt beside her chair and whispered, "I read it." Ana closed the script slowly and looked at him. "Thank you," he said, "for trusting me." She nodded once, her voice barely above a whisper. "Was it too much?" Keanu shook his head. "No, it was. Honest, and I think that's what broke me. Not your words, the honesty in them. I sat there for it." A few more seconds before the assistant director came over and politely asked if they were ready. Ana looked at Keanu. He looked at her, and together, they nodded. double quotes. Yeah, she said softly. We're ready. The scene they filmed that day was supposed to be the climax of the film. It was where the two characters finally confessed the feelings they'd been hiding all along, but something strange happened during the shoot. They didn't need to act. Everything felt real. The emotions, the pauses, the tension in their voices. Even the tears in Anna's eyes weren't scripted, but no one said anything. Because whatever was happening between them was raw, human, alive. When the director finally called cut, the crew was quiet for a few seconds before they erupted into quiet applause. Ana turned away to wipe her eyes. Keanu placed a gentle hand on her back, nothing more. It's just enough to say, I'm here. The director approached them slowly. I don't know what you two tapped into today, he said, but that was something else. You've both gone deeper than I imagined.
Keanu
Gave a small smile. Ana nodded, and then, for the first time in a long time, Keanu whispered something back to her. 5 words. You remind me of light. Ana blinked, her lips parted. And for a second she forgot how to breathe. Because for him to say that to someone who had reminded him of pain only a day ago, it meant something had healed, or at least, had begun to. That night after wrap, Keanu walked alone to the edge of the city's hills. He looked out at the skyline, the dark sky above it, and let the wind hit his face. He pulled the letter from his jacket and read it again. Under the moonlight, he smiled this time. Not a big smile, not a performer's smile, a real one, small, quiet. Honest, because sometimes a whisper is enough to break you, but sometimes it's also enough to put the pieces back together. The pause that changed everything the days that followed were filled with something new, something soft and steady. On screen, Keanu and Ana's connection had never been stronger. The camera loved their stillness, the quiet space between their lines, the way they looked at each other like they were remembering something real off-screen. They weren't rushing anything. They walked side by side between scenes. They shared snacks during breaks. Sometimes they didn't talk at all, but the silence no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a promise. But nothing this real stays untouched for long. It began with a tabloid headline. Keanu Reeves and Ana de Armas romance on set or clever publicity. The article spread fast. Photos taken from long lenses. Half-truths wrapped in assumptions. Some gossip outlets praised them, others mocked them. But none of it felt honest. Ana saw it first. She stared at the screen for a long time, then put her phone down quietly. Keanu walked in moments later, coffee in hand. She didn't say anything. He noticed her face before he noticed the silence. You saw it? He asked softly. Ana nodded. Keanu sat across from her.
Always.
They always do this. It's like they can't let something be real unless they can control it. Ana looked down. I didn't think it would bother me, but it does. Because what we're building, it's not for cameras, it's not for clicks. Keanu leaned forward, his voice calm. Then we don't let them define it. Ana raised her eyes. What if this changes how people see the film? Then let them see what they want, as long as we know it's real. But deep down, both of them knew the damage had already started on set the next day. Things were different, not between them, but around them. Crew members whispered a little more. Some actors avoided eye contact, so the director, though supportive, looked tense. Sponsors had called. Questions had been raised. And in a world built on appearances, even honesty had to answer to expectations. The director called Keanu and Ana into his office. Look, he said gently, you two are incredible together. No one's questioning your work. But the studio. They're worried. They think this story could distract from the film. They're asking us to pause press interactions. Maybe even reshoot the final scene. Ana blinked. Why? What does our personal life have to do with the story we're telling? The director sighed. It doesn't. But this industry runs on perception, and they're scared of losing control of the narrative. Keanu's voice was firm. We won't reshoot it. Ana nodded in quiet agreement. Then be ready, the director said, because this won't be easy.
Later.
Later that night, Ana sat alone in her apartment. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages, notifications, requests for interviews, comments from strangers who claimed to know her heart. She turned it all off when there was finally silence. She went to her piano, the one her father had taught her. To play, she pressed a single key, then another, then another. A slow, broken melody, not for performance, just for healing. A few minutes in, she heard a soft knock at the door. She opened it to find Keanu standing there. No words, just his presence. She stepped aside. He came in quietly. When she returned to the piano, he sat beside her. "You want to talk?" she asked. "Not really," he said. "I just wanted to hear you play." Ana nodded. She kept playing hesitant. Unfinished chords. Aquia? And Keanu closed his eyes and listened. After a while, she whispered, "I'm scared." "So am I. What if we lose all this?" Keanu turned to her. "Then let's not fight to protect the image of it. Let's fight to protect the truth of it." Ana blinked, even if the world tears it apart, especially then. The next morning, something unexpected happened. A message came from one of the executive producers. He had seen the raw footage from the last scene they filmed, the one where they held each other in silence under the city lights. No lines, just emotion. He had watched it 5 times. His message was short. "Don't reshoot, keep it. It's too honest to fake." The team agreed. The final cut would stay, and for the first time since the gossip had started, Keanu and Ana felt something like hope. Not the kind you shout about, the kind you carry quietly. But things didn't stay quiet for long. Ana's agent called her one night with news that shook her. A major brand deal, a deal she had counted on to fund her charity work, was pulling out. They didn't want to be part of any public distraction. Ana sat still for a long time after that call. Keanu came over that night and found her sitting in the dark. She didn't speak. He sat beside her, his voice calm. "What happened?" "They backed out." Keanu took a deep breath. "Because of me. Because of us." Keanu looked down. "I never wanted to cost you anything." Ana looked at him sharply. "It didn't cost me anything. The truth did." Paused. "But I don't regret it." Keanu nodded slowly. "Then let me help." "How?" He reached into his bag and pulled out something smaller. Checked on and stared at it, confused. "I've been holding on to this donation for years. I never knew where to put it, but now I do." She tried to speak. "Keanu, I can't. You're not taking it. We're doing it together." Her eyes filled with tears. "This isn't just about us," he said. "This is about doing the right thing when the world wants you to do what's easy." Ana nodded slowly. And for the first time that week, she smiled. Not for the cameras, not for the world, just for him. Because even in the face of fear, something stronger had taken root. Trust, real, messy human trust. And with that, they moved forward together. Unfinished Stories and Quiet Return's sun was just beginning to rise when Ana stepped into the studio garden. It wasn't much, just a quiet space behind the soundstage, filled with a few benches and flower beds. But it was peaceful. It was where she went when her thoughts were too loud. She sat with her legs pulled close, watching a small bird hop from branch to branch. Her phone buzzed once. She didn't check it right away. When she finally did, it was a message from Keanu. Short. Simple. "Can we talk before the others arrive?" She hesitated. Her heart beat faster. Then she replied, "I'm in the garden." A few minutes later, he appeared, his steps slow. His hands in the pockets of that same jacket, the one that still carried her folded letter close to his chest. He didn't sit down right away. Instead, he stood beside her, looking out at the morning sky. "You know what I realized last night?" he said quietly. Ana looked up at him. "What?" "I've spent years playing characters who know what they want, who say the right things, who finish the scene. But in real life, I've left a lot of things unfinished. People, conversations, feelings." He paused, and when you whispered those words to me on set, I realized I'd been walking through life like a half-written script. Ana felt a lump rise in her throat. Keanu turned to her now, kneeling slightly so they were eye level. I'm not afraid of what you feel. I'm afraid of what it might awaken in me. Because if I feel it back, then I'll have to stop hiding. Ana's voice was soft. And is that so terrible? Keanu looked at her, really looked at her. Maybe not, he whispered. They sat in silence for a moment. The sun was now above the horizon, bathing the garden in golden light. Ana reached into her coat and pulled out another small envelope. This time it wasn't a letter. It was a photograph. One from months ago, behind the scenes. Someone had captured the two of them laughing during a lunch break. Heads leaned together, unaware of the camera. I kept this, she said, because that day you made me laugh without trying. It reminded me of who I am when I'm not pretending. Keanu took the photo gently. He smiled as he looked at it, the kind of smile that starts in the eyes. I don't want to lose what we've found, she added. He nodded. Me neither. The day's shoot went smoothly. Their chemistry on screen had become something the crew admired in quiet awe. The energy between them didn't feel acted, felt lived. And for the first time since the project began, they didn't just play characters falling in love. They carried something real between them. But just when things felt steady again, something unexpected happened. A woman appeared on set. Not part of the crew, not a visitor. She was older, with tired eyes and a cautious smile. Keanu saw her first, and he froze. His breath caught. Ana followed his gaze and looked at the woman. Then she glanced at Keanu. Who is she? She whispered. Keanu didn't speak at first. The woman stepped closer. Hello, Keanu. His voice came out barely audible. Rachel. Ana watched his expression shift. It was like a storm moving through his face. Recognition, sadness, something deeper. Who is she? Ana asked again. Keanu swallowed. She's my ex. From years ago, we were engaged. Ana's eyes widened slightly. Rachel smiled softly. I know I shouldn't have come here, but I saw the trailer, the one you two filmed last month, and it stirred something in me. Ana looked between them, unsure what to say. Rachel turned to Ana. You've helped him come alive again. I can see it. I just wanted to say thank you. And goodbye, properly this time. Keanu stepped forward slowly. You never owed me anything, he said gently. Rachel shook her head. No, but I owed myself closure, and maybe seeing you now, with someone who understands your silence, helped me find that. Ana felt her heart tremble. Not with jealousy, but with a strange kind of ache. A reminder that people carry old wounds, and sometimes they return without warning. After Rachel left, Ana and Keanu stood alone near the edge of the set. You okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. Yeah, it's strange. I didn't expect to feel peace, but I did, and I gave a small smile. She was kind. Keanu looked at her, his eyes full of something quiet and deep. So, are you? That evening, they didn't go home right away. Instead, Keanu asked if she'd take a walk with him. Through the quieter side of the city, near the old art district, they passed empty cafes, murals painted on old brick walls, and trees that had grown through concrete. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. At one point, Ana reached out and took his hand. Didn't flinch. He didn't pause. Just held it back, gently, firmly. It was the kind of moment that didn't need music, didn't need lights. It just needed truth. When they stopped to rest on a bench, Keanu finally spoke. I never wanted to fall for someone again. Not because I didn't believe in it, but because I didn't think I could do it right. Ana leaned her head against his shoulder. No one does it right. You just try not to run away. You think I'm still running? I think you've slowed down enough to notice the person beside you. Keanu turned to her. And what about you? Stopped running the moment you read that letter. He took a deep breath. Then he leaned closer and pressed his forehead against hers. No kiss. No words. Just presence. Because sometimes the most important part of love isn't saying it. It's showing up for it, again and again, especially when it's hard.